A movie where the beginning of the trailer is just the entire family going on about a man they have never met while telling each other to act naturally when they find out he's single, and then all stand up in sync like they're part of The Conjuring.
In a time where marrying a man was the only thing a woman could do to have meaning, Elizabeth runs from a man who wants to marry his cousin, while her mother assures him she'll say yes. Yet when she says no, her mother starts to throw a tantrum and force them all to go to a ball. A movie from a woman who lived in the era of King George III. Then they meet Mr. Darcy, a man who just doesn't want to dance. And Elizabeth manages to gain Mr. Darcy's trust, not knowing how. And we learn that Mr. Darcy also has social anxiety. Then they dance. He's rich, and no one thinks that Elizabeth should be with him.
Meet Elizabeth Bennet, the 18th century version of Michelle Obama trying to outstand her husband, a woman who can't make up her mind on whether she loves or hates a man. Mr. Collins, a man who just wants to marry his cousin. Mrs. Bennet, the woman that wants all her children's dreams to come true, as long as it's what she wants, and when it isn't, she throws a temper tantrum worse than the fall of the Roman Empire.
That brings us to Mr. Darcy, an uptight man with more money than he can even think about using, making even the poor look better than him, all while being truly the least handsome in the room. Rich and richer.
Pride and Prejudice presentation.
By Nick and Aaliyah. Overview. Pride and Prejudice goes into the life of Elizabeth Bennet and her family and how they are trying to find a way for everyone to find love and happiness. While Elizabeth seems to stand out from the rest of her family, she meets a man that acts the same.
Mr. Darcy, a man with horrific manners and not a care in the world about anyone other than himself, or so Elizabeth thought.
Mrs. Bennet wants nothing but happiness for her children, but she also wants money. Yet Mr. Bennet just wants his daughters' lives to be well and have a good man taking care of them. Then there's Jane, one of Elizabeth's sisters, who falls in love with Darcy's best friend, Mr. Bingley, for no reason.
Come to find out that they are all in one great big love triangle that takes about 40 chapters to solve, where none of us truly understand what is going on, and that's just the book. Historical and biographical background. Pride and Prejudice took place during the Napoleonic Wars from 1797 to 1815, which is in the same general period that Pride and Prejudice was published.
During this time, the French Revolution was fought. Marie Antoinette was guillotined. Slavery was abolished by the Parliament throughout the British Empire.
And King George III was replaced by his son, King George IV.
Jane Austen was born in Stevenson, Hampshire, on December 16, 1775, was the daughter of George Austen and Cassandra Leigh. Married in 1764, Austen had 7 siblings, 6 brothers, and 1 sister. Her father was an orphan, but because of his rich uncle, got put through schooling.
In 1797, Austen wrote First Impressions, which was rejected by the publisher and is known to be the first version of what we know as Pride and Prejudice.
Major theme.
When it comes to this story, the major theme that we seem to see is equality or inequality.
When you think about it, the characters in this novel all have a tendency to keep inequality in classes, sex, or other means.
Or for characters like Elizabeth Bennet, makes equality in all of those areas while still finding love, keeping all the other characters on equal beliefs.
Comparison to real-life situation and/or event. The best comparison is using the royal wedding between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle,
compared to the relationship between Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy.
Both relationships were frowned upon by the public for different reasons, but the main reason is that it creates a change in society, creating defiance, and that worries people.
With Darcy and Elizabeth, they create defiance with class and sex, while the relationship between the royal couple create defiance with the fact that Ms. Markle had been previously married.
Comparison of two different pieces of literature and film from a thematic standpoint, Romeo and Juliet. This tragedy was by William Shakespeare, has different similarities to Pride and Prejudice in the idea of forbidden love, but society's influence, yet Romeo and Juliet still find a way to love each other even when they should not. Just like Elizabeth Bennet and Fitzwilliam Darcy, their love was unaccepted by their families because of their class differences, and yet once again they still found a way to love each other.
In Much Ado About Nothing, Claudio and Hero have an idealistic love. They fall in love at first sight and don't actually talk to each other very much after meeting, similar to Jane and Bingley. Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth have a realistic love, just like Beatrice and Benedict in Much Ado About Nothing. In both relationships, their love increases over time, and in the end, they fall in love and get married.
Cela, c'est la fin de la présentation.